Have you ever been stranded on an unknown journey? Seriously, just think about that for a second. Picture yourself far away from home, all those familiar comforts just stripped away, and you're left with nothing but the sheer uncertainty of what happens next. It's a very specific, almost universal kind of sinking feeling, right? We've all been there in one way or another. Maybe it was a flat tire on some deserted road, a delayed train in a strange city, or just getting hopelessly lost before we all had smartphones in our pockets. Well, today we're going to look at a truly beautiful story that captures exactly that feeling, but it wraps it up in the warm, nostalgic embrace of a 90s childhood memory.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a charming and genuinely emotional 90s story about a village bus breakdown. It's a story that perfectly captures a family's unexpected crisis during what was supposed to be just a routine, joyous trip to their grandmother's house, or Nani's house as it's affectionately called. We're going to map out the timeline of this journey, follow the sudden escalation of tension, and ultimately discover a totally profound lesson about human connection that emerged from the pitch-black darkness of an isolated jungle. Okay, let's dive right into this. Chapter 1, The Journey Begins.
Every great road trip story starts with this palpable sense of momentum and excitement, you know? And this one paints such a wonderfully upbeat picture of a family setting off. There's that frantic rush to catch the bus, the joyful anticipation of the holidays, and just the simple, innocent thrill of leaving the daily grind behind. If we look at the anatomy of a classic 90s road trip, it usually goes a little something like this. First off, you have the ultimate childhood victory, securing the window seat. I mean, it's just the sheer joy of watching the world rush by. Then, the sweet mangoes. There's this undeniable excitement of passing by endless mango trees, just anticipating eating those sweet, sweet fruits once you finally arrive at the village. And third, singing songs. The whole family bonding, just belting out tunes as the bus rolls along. It is the sensory, joyful momentum. Honestly, you can practically feel the warm breeze and hear the collective singing. It's the perfect, idyllic setup.
But then, obviously, everything changes. We find ourselves in the middle of the jungle. The scenery outside that highly coveted window seat drastically changes. Those joyful mango trees, they suddenly give way to a massive, seemingly endless jungle. The tone completely shifts as the passengers realize just how deep into the wilderness they've actually traveled. All the comfort of the familiar is just gone. And the crisis doesn't happen all at once. It's this slow, creeping build of dread. First, the engine overheats. Just a subtle warning sign. Then the weird noises start clanking away, and the anxiety among the passengers really begins to tick up. Next thing you know, the bus just completely breaks down. The whole vehicle comes to a dead stop in the literal middle of nowhere. And then, the absolute most terrifying realization of all, especially for anyone who remembers the 90s or honestly even today, darkness falls. And there is absolutely zero cell network. Pitch blackness is setting in, they are stuck in a massive jungle, and they have literally no way to call for help. Which brings us to this stark, deeply human reaction. Mother, I am scared. All that excitement about the window seat and the fresh mangoes completely evaporated. It's instantly replaced by this intense, growing fear and isolation. The passengers are just kind of resigning themselves to the terrifying thought of spending the entire night completely stranded in the wild. You can imagine the psychological weight of that dark, heavy jungle just pressing down on them. And right at the peak of that fear, just as the darkness fully takes over, somebody spots something. Look, someone is coming towards us. Think about the sheer suspense of that exact moment. You're broken down, in an unfamiliar jungle, in the dead of night, and mysterious figures suddenly emerge from the shadows. Are they a threat? Are they a rescue party? It is an absolute visceral cliffhanger for every single person on that stranded bus. But that immense tension, it instantly dissolves as we transition to our next chapter. Help from strangers. Turns out, those mysterious figures in the dark weren't a threat at all. Actually, they were local villagers stepping up to help. The profound warmth and relief that washes over the passengers is just palpable. That hushed suspense of the dark jungle is immediately replaced by the incredibly reassuring presence of community. Right off the bat, they focused on emotional support, reassuring the terrified passengers with the incredibly simple but powerful phrase, "You are not alone." Then, they addressed the most vulnerable, feeding the hungry, crying children so they wouldn't have to suffer through the night. And finally, they actually rolled up their sleeves and got right to work, helping to fix that overheated engine. This right here, this is exactly how people intuitively stepped up to help one another back in the day. It wasn't an obligation, it was just a reflex of pure human kindness. Thanks to that incredible teamwork, we reach our final chapter, destination and a lesson.
There's this massive breakthrough moment in the narrative when the engine finally stutters back to life and starts running. The passengers realize the terrifying jungle is finally being left behind. And we see a really powerful direct contrast here. On one hand, you have the dense, scary jungle, which represents terrifying isolation, the fear of the unknown, and just a totally hostile environment. But countering that, you have the selfless help of the villagers. And that represents community, safety, and this life-saving interconnectedness we all share. Because really, this isn't just a story about a broken-down bus. It's comparing the darkness of the world with the absolute light of human kindness. The environment was cold and unforgiving, for sure, but the human element, it was warm, and it resolved everything.
So finally, the bus arrives. The immense relief of safely reaching Nani's house is celebrated by everyone. The kids are safe. And let me tell you, after spending a terrifying night stranded out in a jungle, that home-cooked food, it definitely tastes better than ever before. The holidays they were so eagerly looking forward to at the very beginning of our timeline can finally kick off. But you know, those passengers have been forever changed by what they experienced the night before.
The absolutely crucial takeaway from this whole experience is captured perfectly right here. Some journeys become memorable not by the destination, but by people's love. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. It's a profoundly beautiful realization. They set out so excited for the destination, the mangoes, the grandmother's house, the holiday fun. But the thing that truly etched this specific journey into their memories forever wasn't the arrival itself. It was the innate goodness of humanity they encountered when they were at their absolute most vulnerable.
Which leaves us with a pretty compelling question to ponder today. What is the most memorable journey of your life? Was it memorable because everything went exactly according to your perfectly planned itinerary? Or was it memorable because something actually went completely wrong, and an unexpected act of kindness from a total stranger turned a crisis into a lifelong memory? Take a moment today to reflect on the unexpected kindness you might have experienced on your own journeys. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it sparked a little bit of curiosity and warmth for your day.